Good afternoon, crafters. This is Brett Lund with Robert's Crafts for another Technique Thursday. Today we're going to be playing around with a thing called Tombow markers. Now Tombow markers these are what they look like. So they're really fun. They have a kind of a brush tip, and then they have a pointed tip. Really kind of fun. So let me show you some examples that we're going to do, and then we'll go from there. There's one. Okay, one. Okay. Now the supplies that you're going to need, Tombow markers, of course, and I have found that that I like to use watercolor paper. Okay, now this pad specifically comes in 11 by 15 inches, and it actually has 15 sheets. And the thing that I like about this is it's a fairly large size, and so what I can do is I can go ahead and cut it down when I need to. Now, what we're going to also be needing is we're going to be needing some stamps. So I just used some Hero Art stamps. And then also we want to use a thing called archival ink. And this one actually happens to be from Ranger. This is my favorite ink. The reason why we want to use archival ink is because it is fade resistant, waterproof, and non-smear. So what we're going to do is, because the Tombow markers are basically watercolor markers, you want to use an ink that doesn't bleed. So this happens to be my favorite one. You could also use StazOn ink if you'd like, but my favorite is the archival ink. It's a nice juicy pad. You can see that I've used this pad quite frequently. Okay, so what you want to do first of all is you want to get your image and you want to stamp it on a piece of watercolor paper. Now again, you can use other paper. The problem with using other paper that I have found is it balls up, and you'll know what I mean if you try using another paper. You'll get balls on your project. Okay, the fibers will start to ball up, and then eventually your paper will tear. Watercolor paper is made to suck in that water and to not get destroyed. That's why I like watercolor paper. So all I've done is I've stamped an image using the archival ink in watercolor paper, and then you're going to take any color. Now the thing with Tombow comes in an assorted variety of different colors. Okay, and so what we're going to do is I'm going to first, I like to take the brush, and then all I'm going to do, let me zoom this in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and, using the brush, I kind of outline the image, and then also I like to outline the lines. Okay, so all we're doing is outlining, and we're going to add a little color right here. Okay, so once we've done that, we're going to take a brush. Notice it's N00. This is basically meaning that it has no color in it. Basically all this is a watercolor brush. Now the nib of my brush is stained, but that's not going to hurt it. So before you use any of your Tombow markers, you want to get a piece of scratch paper, and you're going to go ahead and just make sure that there's no ink coming out. I'll set that off to the side. And then what I like to do is I take the ink and I start pulling from the sides. Notice how I'm starting to color in the image. Now this is where you can start to add your highlights, because what you can do is the more water that you use on your stamped image, the lighter it'll get. Okay, so for example, if I start to color this top ridge, see, I'm taking some of the ink from the ice cream dish to color that. Now if I wanted that lighter, I could go ahead and make it lighter, But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a little bit more dark to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another pen, I'm going to swipe the end of the nib, and then I'm just going to highlight. And you know what? This isn't dark enough. I want to get even a darker, more contrast. So clean your nib. Yeah, this is going to be nice contrast. So we paint directly onto our nib, and then if you notice, I'm going to clean off some of this nib so it's not as dark, and then all I'm doing is I'm just taking and I'm just kind of shading it. Okay, this is where the fun really comes in, because you can start adding highlights. Okay, so it kind of adds a little bit character to your image. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put that on, clean our nib. And let's do some ice cream. Let's do a mint green. Now, I don't want this to be super dark. Okay, so once again, I'm going to make sure my nib is clean, and then I'm going to just take some off the head, and I'm just going to kind of paint. Okay, this is going to give me a light, subtle green. Now, if I wanted it darker than this, I could paint directly, I could directly color it, but I don't want it a really dark color. Okay, so there we go with mint. Now clean my nib. And the next one I think I want kind of a strawberry. So we're going to paint the nib. Okay. Now let's go ahead and make our, let's do our let's see, toppings. So let's do a chocolate topping. Again, paint the nib. Okay, now if you notice, see, to me, I want it darker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in and I'm going to color a little bit. And then I'm going to use this guy. We're going to color in the edges. Okay. So you have two options. You have your brush and you have your pointed nib. Okay. Clean off that edge. Clean off that edge. Okay, and let's do this one. Let's do a kind of a yellow. No, let's do a kind of a, yeah, yellow for a pineapple topping. And you know what? Let's color this one right in. Okay. Now this white stuff right here, this is, we're gonna leave that, we're gonna let that be our whipped cream, and then this is gonna be our cherry. So let's go ahead and color our cherry. I want a bright red for this one. Pull from the center. Okay, notice how my shading is. Okay, so we have our darker along the edges and then the lighter in the center. Okay, now looking at this, that green mint ice cream is looking kind of sad. So let's say it's pistachio. See, and that's the cool thing about these pens, is you can color on top of them. Okay, clean off her head. Now one last thing, now you can leave it like that and our image is done. Oops, like that. Or what I like to do is I like to take a really, really light black, light gray, N95 is a really good one. So is N89. And to be honest, so is even N60. Okay, if you look, there are 3 different grays. Okay, so I think I'm going to use N95 in this round. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the bottom, and you can start wherever you want, and I'm just going to outline it. Okay, now what outlining does is just you're going to say, well, whoop-de-doo, it's just an outline. Well, the outline, that is what gives it its highlight. It almost gives it a shadow effect. And so it kind of creates the image is floating. So you hear that? Okay, and then that is our project. It's super fun. Tombow markers, we sell them both at Roberts Crafts in the scrapbook section as well as in the art section. They either come open stock, which means individually, or they also come in sets, or you can buy the entire set of markers. So if you want to play around with them, usually with the open stock you have to buy them individually, but usually with the sets, it'll come maybe with 8 or 9 markers, and then it also comes with a blending pen. So you want to make sure to do the project you need watercolor paper, blending pen, and your Tombow markers. Oh, and you can't forget your archival ink. Okay, so there is our project, and then all I did was with the image, I just mounted it to a, let's zoom out. So I mounted it to a colored piece of cardstock, and then I mounted that onto a craft colored card, and then I'm going to go ahead and put them with my envelopes, and there we have some really easy, fun birthday watercolored images. As always, you can find these projects at your local Roberts Crafts or at robertscrafts.com, and as always, happy crafting.